Welcome to Chicago Style Parenting, where we delve into parenting life in Chicago and uncover the resources, information, and support that Chicago families need. I'm your host, Satara Jones. My co host, Amy, will be back for our next episode. Today, we have the pleasure of speaking with Natasha Croft and Julie Molina, both parent support specialists for Chicago Public Schools. Natasha and Julie, welcome. Please tell
Thank,
us a little bit more about yourself.
thank you for having us. My name is Natasha Croft. I am an OSD, which is the Office for Students with Disabilities, parent support specialist within CPS. And then to my colleague, Ms. Julie.
And my name is Julie Molina, and I am also a parent support specialist for the Office of Students with Disabilities. I am the bilingual on the team, and so happy to be here.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And both of you are also parents, right? Can you tell us a little bit more about your kids or about your parenting life in Chicago or whatever it is that you might want to share?
Absolutely. Thank you. So I have a son who is now a freshman. Um, I came into this world with the Office for Students with Disabilities because of him. I came in as a parent who had a child with an IEP, who has a diagnosis of autism and other disabilities. I'm also involved in other disability organizations within the state of Illinois. I am the treasurer for Chicagoland Autism Connection, as well as on the early childhood cohort and a board member to Illinois Council on Developmental Disabilities. So I'm all around disabilities when it comes to helping our parents and our students. I feel as though I can help parents because I've been there, been through the process, and I can empathize and try my best to guide them.
Okay, parents are in good hands.
So, as far as myself, like Natasha, I only have one child. She's also a freshman, but a freshman in college. So we have gone through the process. I've been in the private sector, so she was in the private sector for the beginning of her life till we transitioned to CPS. So I have seen, we started being in the world of OSD because my child does have a disability and because she had an IEP herself. And so I know what that looks like on the private sector as well as the private sector. So, yeah.
Thank you. All right, so we're just gonna jump right in. We have a ton of questions, and I'm so thrilled that you all are here to help us weed through this and find some answers. So, just very general, but who does the Office for Students with Disabilities serve? We'd like to give a quick shout out to Oasis Face Bar Chicago, your skin's happy place. Unearth your most radiant skin with signature 30-minute facials or extra strength clinical treatments and products. Learn more at oasisfacebar.com.
So, the Office of Students with Disabilities serves all students with disabilities. So, if a child has an IEP or a 504, we service the students with disabilities as well as the students that they might not know that they have a disability yet.
And as far as I would even go as far as to say, our role within OSD is more geared towards the parents. We are here to support the parents as is in our name. So we don't generally work hand in hand with students. We
Okay.
are there just to help the parents mostly.
All right. I guess that gets right into your title, Parent Support Specialist. What exactly do you do? What is the age range of students that you support through their parents? Just tell us a little bit more about your role in particular.
So, we support our parents in navigating the IEP process because we are parents who have gone through the process and know it's not an easy process to always navigate. We have found certain things to help navigate parents to be able to go through the process, right? So, we help to build a bridge for parents when it comes to like departments when those are needed. We also are here to answer questions if we're able to answer those questions, reach out to different departments or even departments within our department to be able to get those answers to the parents. We also provide monthly trainings. They're able to call us just to kind of speak to us, to give us their story, because a lot of times people just want to be heard. We also have an email address which we'll provide later for them to contact us as well for us to help and support them. As far as who we service the whole district. So that means we service from actually sometimes before pre-K, because sometimes we do get some questions from parents, but pre-K through actually 22-year-olds. So that's our age range.
And we also try to do outreach. Not only do we help facilitate and support our parents, we also interact with the school admins, officials, whether it be the case manager or if it's parent groups, we will reach out to them as well, just to be able to be out there in the front to show that we're there to support them as like a mediator. Because sometimes, you know, parents are going through the situation and they may have issues with the school, or they may not feel as though the school is to support them. And so we may step in as that mediator, that mediation, I guess, between there to bring them together, because we definitely want parents to know that they are a part of the team when it comes to making sure that their students get the supports that they need.
That's amazing. Both that the age range of students that you all cover is so vast, and then also that you all are there as that like you said, that mediator between the school and the parent. So I'm sure it helps parents feel like they have a little bit more support, a little bit more confidence, managing all of the moving pieces that go into supporting their children in the school.
Mhm. And sometimes it's just that the parents don't know where to go
Yeah.
or who they need to be talking to, because there's sometimes they may have situations that are not even under our umbrella. And it's like, oh my goodness, who do we get this to? So it's like for example, let's say that they are having issues with their transportation. We contact or we will get them the information to the transportation team. Here's their email, here's their phone numbers. So that's how we bridge them to get the information that they may need.
The other thing is that we as a team work together. There's three of us on this team, which is, a small but mighty group. We do get together and have conversations around even just certain situations that are thrown our way to try to help and find those answers. Like Natasha said, whether it be within OSD or within the umbrella of CPS, as well as some sister agencies as well, because there are sister agencies that we are attached to that we know about to say to a parent, this might be a resource for you, or this might be the resource for you. The other thing is we don't always have the answers when parents come and ask the questions, because we've never been asked those questions in the past. But what we do as a team is we learn from these questions and then go and find the answers. And that also helps us as a team to become stronger, because now we have these answers to be able to give other parents.
Love that. Like one big community kind of growing and
Yes.
evolving and getting smarter and moving faster, knowing what stones to turn over because of the process that other people are going through. All right, so today I know we want to focus on a little bit on the application and admissions process for students with disabilities and CPS. Is this a complicated process for parents and students, or, is it pretty much laid out by each school? Just, I guess, some general guidance around how complicated that process might be.
So I don't know if it's a complicated process. It's not an easy process. So depending on the transition that you're going through, okay? So there's a lot of emotions that happen as parents when you're going through certain things, right? So the applying is you go through either early learning when your child is in preschool, or kinder through 12th grade, it would be that you would go through Go CPS. Okay. So those are the two, I guess, platforms. In that, a lot of emotions are happening, I believe, as a parent, because I went through it when I was trying to apply for a school, and then the process of not getting accepted, right? Because it's lottery. So you don't know if you're going to get it or you're not going to, if you're going to get it or get it. The anxiety of that, I feel, as a parent could be really hard. So the process is you either go through early learning, you fill out the application, or you go through Go CPS and you do the same for that. That's not hard. At least it wasn't for me. I am going to say that it also depends on the person's technology, how technology savvy they are. So that can be daunting for some parents, right? So what I'm going to say is the process isn't hard. It's laid out. It's just a lot of the nuances that sometimes get kind of muffled, and
Mm-hmm.
a lot of it having to do with just emotions. As a parent, this is where I want my child. This is where I want my child. This is where I want my child, right? And sometimes that might not be where your child ends up because it is a lottery system. And that, I think, for parents is really hard to kind of take. Going through it, through whether for me was preschool, I went through it there. I went through it through high school and trying to get my child into a selective enrollment, or what high school was she's going to go to, and then going through the process for my child in college as well. That feeling I felt was always there with each one of those transitions.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Julie, what support do you offer bilingual students through the application process specifically?
Okay, so as far as that, I don't support parents through the application process.
Okay.
Go CPS has their own bilingual staff to support students, a parent that might be bilingual.
Okay.
But if a parent has a question, I will try to see and guide them through the answer. But I not necessarily am the Go CPS person. Go CPS has their people in place who are bilingual to help parents who are bilingual.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I would say too that if there's any parents that do need translation assistance, that they definitely speak up and ask for a translation or interpreters if they need those too, to know that they can ask for that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's important to know that it's even an option available to them. So thank you. Natasha, do preschool students who are entering into special education and applying for a CPS program follow the same application process as students entering general education? And if so, what is that process?
It is a little different. So pre-K students that may have an that come in with just speech only, they can go through the early learning portal just as any general ed student.
Okay.
But if they're coming in and they have an IEP, they would be placed by our school assignment team. And when school assignment places the students, they try to get them as close to home as possible and into a school that can definitely support whatever their IEP is asking for. As Julie was speaking beforehand about the whole applying process, it also has to be noted too, though, that if the student has more needs more accommodations or modifications, then they may be placed by school assignment. So they would not necessarily be choosing the school that their child would go to. So I think that sometimes is something that does frustrate the parents, because we may get a call that says, well, I wanted my child to go to this school. Unfortunately, that school may not be able to support that child's IEP. And for those that are just coming in, the IEP is an individualized education plan. So child A may, um, the parent may say, well, that my neighbor's child went to this school. Why can't my child go to that school? Unfortunately, just as the IEP is individualized, your child's needs are individualized. So school A may work for the neighbor child, but they can't accommodate your child. School B will be the best fit for your child. So that's where they may be placed.
Also, really quick, an IEP is a legal document. And so the school has to abide by that legal document. And so I think parents need to understand that once that IEP is written, the school has to fulfill those accommodations and modifications, right? And so the reason why a child would not necessarily be placed at that neighborhood school or that specific school that, like Natasha was talking about, the student A, right? It might be because that school legally could not fulfill that IEP. And therefore, they have to be put at a school that can comply or follow the IEP plan.
Got it. I think you all pointed out some really good points, but is the process the same for all special education students? So if a student that is deaf or hard of hearing, um, is their application process the same as a student that has severe learning disabilities?
No. If especially if they have severe, moderate, or severe, or depending on what services they need, the school assignment team will place them. The
The school
parent would get a
assignment.
letter
Okay.
before school starts to say, this, your child, see, how does the letter go? Your child will be attending this school and they have a certain amount of time to go to enroll their child.
So
And on
they,
that letter,
sorry, really quick, they have 10 days
yeah.
to register their child once they get that letter.
Okay.
And on that letter, it will say the school, the address, um, when that letter will expire, and they take that to the school that their child is to go to, and they enroll the student. Um, do they? So in that, so we want to be very transparent. They have the option of saying, "Oh well, I don't like that school. I don't want my child to go to that school." They can reach out to the school assignment team to. There's a form that they would send out if they don't like the school or they don't want their child to attend that school. It does not necessarily mean that they will get a different school because while school assignment is trying to place their child, they're trying to place also thousands other students as well.
Right.
And they have like a criteria that they're looking at. Like, does the school support this child's IEP? How far away from the home is the school?
That
Does
was going to be one of my questions is like
yes.
the distance from a family's home taken into
Mhm.
consideration with any of this.
They they try to stay as close as possible, get the
Okay.
child as close as possible to the home. What comes into play though is they're trying to place all of the students into the schools that will best support them. This school only has so many seats. So once that school is filled, that may be closest to the home, unfortunately, they can't place the child there because there's no seat. So then they have to go to the next closest school. So it's a lot for the school assignment team. Uh, that is definitely one position I would I would not
This is
want
the other
to.
thing, like the way I imagine it, right? Because I haven't seen, I know a couple of the school assignment people, I've never seen them working, right? But the first thing that they do is that they get an IEP that's given to them. They look at the IEP, they look at the accommodations and modifications, right, that are coming down. Once they see this, then my thoughts is that it comes out on a computer and it kind of says, these are the schools that these kids can go, that this particular child can go to.
Mhm.
Then they look at the address. I'm assuming that there's like a fill in or something that they can put in. This is the address. And then they map out which is the closest one to that child. So first thing they look at is what school can actually service this IEP. The second thing they look at is what is the closest at that time. So for instance, the child came in on Monday, right? And that Monday, the closest school was 5 miles away. Even though on Tuesday, the closest school was 2 miles away, they were placed already on Monday. So therefore, that is the school that they go with. Now, like Natasha said, a parent can say, I don't want them at the school. I want the school changed. Well, they get put at the end of the list because there's other kids, right? Because there are other kids that are coming their way. So as this is happening, they're placed at the end. Now let's just say that they don't get to that child till, let's say, Monday of the next week. They're going to do the same criteria. They're going to look at the IEP. They're going to put it on their computer. What schools can they place the child in, and which is the closest one to them. If that school is still the first school, I don't know, let's say, I don't think of a school, Healy, right? And at that time, it's the same school, they're going to be placed at that school.
Thinking about the school process, can students in special education apply to selective enrollment, elementary or high schools? And then what does that process look like, and how does it differ from the non-selective enrollment school process?
So students can apply if they meet the eligibility requirement. They are able to apply on the app, on the application when it's open. That process would be for them to go through Grow CPS. Now, there are some exceptions, and those exceptions would be if their IEP has a school assignment. At that part, they would not be going through Go CPS. They would be going through OSD school assignment. But other than that, they could go through the Go CPS process as long as they're eligible for whatever it's asking for. Whether it be kindergarten or whether it be any grade that they're applying for, that process is for everybody.
So they just have to meet the eligibility requirements, and they're eligible to apply. And then whether or not they get accepted will be determined on whether that school can service their IEP needs and all of the other things that we've previously talked about. It's just a matter of selective enrollment schools. There's an extra layer of eligibility requirements that students need to also meet.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes. And for those parents that do not go through the Go CPS portal or applying or anything, their student would generally go to their neighborhood school.
Okay.
Unless, as Julie said, they have a school assignment.
Okay. And then, Natasha, is the high school application process for students in special education, is that any different than anything else, or is it's all the same and this is just general school, not selective enrollment?
It is, they would go through the Go CPS portal again, unless they are under school assignment.
Okay.
I do believe that they would still go through the portal.
Great. Is there anything else about the application and selection process that might be confusing to parents going through this for the first time? Are there any other tips or pieces of advice that you want parents and families to know?
I think my advice would be to definitely investigate the schools that they are interested in. Make sure that, look at the time of day that they are starting. Because I'm thinking of students with disabilities. Generally, like they may have other, let's just say examples, like they may have like a therapy session at a time that would be after the school or different doctor's appointments. You just want to make sure that that schedule fits what is going on in your home afterwards. You know what I mean? I would make sure that there's a way for that child to get to that school if they need accommodations for that, to look at what that school offers, find out, even talk to get in different parent groups to find out what that school offers. What is the environment like towards students with disabilities? That's definitely important because you don't want your child to go to a school that may be a great school, but the students with disabilities are kind of like pushed over into a corner and forgotten about. You want
Yeah,
to make sure that your child is getting the best that they can be getting as well.
absolutely.
Um, getting to the just going to the open houses when they're open, they're available, making sure that we're going to investigate all of it. That would be like one of my biggest advices. And then to even know what accommodations and modifications your child will need going into high school. If they need more time or you know that they're not good test takers, be making notes of that. You need to be addressing that in your IEP meetings. My child may need 30 more minutes on the test.
Hmm.
My child might need help with note taking. Any services that your child is going to need, whether they're at a selective enrollment or even at their neighborhood high school, you want to be making notes of that and explain and having that conversation with the IEP team. And then us as parent support specialists, we constantly stress to our parents, you are a part of that IEP team. It's not just for you to go to this meeting and hear what all that they're just going to say about your child. You have the right to have some input and to talk about your child. Because while they're with your child during that school day, you know your child better than anyone else. You are their first advocate, and you are, as the parent, are to advocate for your child. So that is another thing that we would definitely want to stress to parents.
The other thing I would say is I would tell the parent to breathe. The process, like I said, it's a very emotional process. A lot of parents, I'm not from Chicago, I am from California, and you kind of just always go to your neighborhood school. Was the way I thought my life was going to be.
Yeah.
It wasn't. My reality was not that. And it was this like fight for trying to get my child in a selective enrollment, which everybody is trying to aim to get to.
Hmm.
I am one of those parents that will say selective enrollment might not be the school for your child. So, like Natasha said, you really need to know your child. You need to know what they're capable of, what their interests are. Like, know that because there's a lot of amazing schools that CPS has that are wonderful high schools that are not necessarily selective enrollment. I understand why people want to get there. And we got to a selective enrollment and at the end decided not to go with that school because that wasn't the school culture we wanted for our daughter. So the school that we wanted for our daughter that was really important was looking at a school that was kind of like California, which was a very diverse school and is what I wanted for her. And so we had to make that decision as parents. We had to sit together, do the pros and cons to each school, and get together with our daughter to say which school is it that for you will make you a better student and successful. Now, the choices that we made allowed her to thrive where she ended up at, and she was very successful there. Um, and it wasn't a selective enrollment school. I understand the pressure because it's such a big pressure here in Chicago. But I really do want to just say to parents, like, there are so many options and there are so many things that your child at this moment might be thinking, like, I'm interested in STEM or I'm interested in health or I'm interested in this that other schools have to be able to cater to your child. So don't write them off. Really look at those schools because CPS does have amazing high schools.
I'd also like to say too, I've just recently, like I've had just some parents to reach out that although your child starts at a certain school freshman year, there are transfers. so that if that becomes a possibility, also don't just forget about that as well. So I just wanted to put that out there too, that that is an option as well to transfer that second year or third year into high school as well.
Thank you both. I think that's really solid advice, especially the breathing part. I think it can be
Yes.
so overwhelming, all of the decisions that have to be made, and then hoping, crossing your fingers and toes and hoping it works out in your favor. Just a reminder to, plant your feet on the ground and bring yourself back to present moment and take a couple of breaths. I think is invaluable. It's one of those things that you don't think you need to say, but when people hear it, I think it resonates with them. Like, okay, let me chill out for a second and take a deep breath.
You know what? One more piece of advice that I would give to parents: make sure you are paying attention to the application opening date
Mm.
and the closing date. When CPS says the application closes at 5 o'clock, they mean 5 o'clock, not 5:01, not 5:02. So that again, you have to keep up with that scheduling.
Yeah. Yeah, Julie, you can probably relate. It's this entire process reminds me so much of applying to college.
Mhm.
I have a sophomore in college, and when it was time for early decision applications, it was like, this application closes on this day. So, if anything, it's stressful now, but it's really a step in the direction that their life is going to take when they get to that collegiate level and they're applying to, for college and for that next phase of their life. Those application deadlines are important. Scholarship application deadlines are important. So, this is really just like
Preparation.
practice for, the bigger stage.
The other thing I'm going to say, it's also about changing mindset. I work with some high school students just on the side. And one of the things that I do tell my high school students when they're going through the process of college, it's about not denial that you're being denied, but you're being redirected. I feel like that's another way of changing things with parents in our high school. It
Right?
wasn't, it's a mind shift. It's not that you were denied, it was that you were redirected. And what is your purpose where you get to where you get to, right? And then, what was my other thought on that? You also get the power back when you get all these schools that then you say which one you want to go to. So with my daughter in high school, she was accepted to 5 different, some of them were private schools, but at the end, I said, now you take the power and you select where you want to go. And so I did the same thing with her in college to say, this is not a denial, this is a redirection. And now with all your acceptances, pick where you want to go and live your life there.
Where did she pick? Now I'm just curious.
So she's at CU Boulder,
Oh, wow.
where she is super happy and saying and thriving and telling me like, Mom, I don't think I'm coming back to Chicago. Mommy tears, mommy tears. But at the same token, I'm gonna say I made her successful to thrive somewhere where I'm not there with her.
Yeah, that's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So cool. I was wondering if she had made her way back to California.
She's trying. She's little by little.
Oh, great. Great. Well, thank you both. How can parents reach out to you if they have more questions or want to ask you something specific?
So if they want to reach out to us and email us, we have an email address, which is OSD parent, PARENT, support, SUPPORT, at cps.edu. And they can leave a message and then we'll respond that way. Or they can call us by leaving a message at 773-553-1840. What I am going to say is if they have, I guess, questions about Go CPS, the number that they would call when it comes to our department might be the call center.
Okay.
And their number, sorry, let me get that, is 773-553-1840.
And they can also reach out to Go CPS by email, and it's gocps@cps.edu.
Got it. I am taking notes just so we can include all of those resources in our show notes for easy access for parents and families later. Thank you. Parents, you can also talk face to face with Natasha and Julie at NPN's Developmental Differences Resource Fair, which is coming up in a couple weeks on April 27th from 9 a.m. to noon at Walcott College Prep. You can visit www.npnparent.org/DDRF for more information and to register. And thank you both so much for joining us today. Thank you for sharing all of your information and knowledge with us. And listeners, we really hope you enjoyed this episode. Tell us what else you'd like to hear about, who you'd like to hear from by clicking the link in our show notes. Hit the subscribe button to stay in the loop, and we'll see you around the neighborhood.